When I first moved into my own place, I had a whole lot of empty space and blank walls. I like to think of myself as a resourceful person, but interior design really doesn't fall in my wheelhouse. So I went online for help, and it turns out that the common denominator to an aesthetic condominium is plants. This is one of the first plants I ever got. Looking pretty good. But behind every success story are countless failures. So this is a plant that I owned when I lived back in San Francisco. It's dead. And this tall one over here, it's long dead. This is from one of my more recent collections. Death status unclear, but I think it's well on its way to the bloody gates of hell. But these days, there are tools I can use to make life a little easier. This one is called machine learning. It really helps to know what kind of monster I'm dealing with so I can figure out how often it should be watered. The spider plant wants water every 5 to 7 days, but reality is rather complicated. The same plant comes in different soils and sizes. 5 to 7 days for one pot is not the same as for another. Overwatering is the most common cause of death for houseplants. Here's a good rule of thumb. Use your fingers. If it feels too moist, hold back on the water. And if your fingers aren't long enough because the pot is too deep, get a toy like this one. The soil here looks very dry, but it's actually moist, so don't water it. I know it's somewhat hard to believe, but I've actually become better at keeping plants alive. This is a moon cactus. This is a red pineapple. This is a purple heart. So just keeping these plants alive doesn't quite feel as thrilling as it used to be. So what we need are some side quests. Let me introduce you to the poinsettia, one of those red Christmas flowers you see at every department store during holiday season. The poinsettia is the world's most economically important potted plant. Every year in the US, over 70 million pots are sold in a period of 6 weeks at a value of over $250 million. What I don't understand is why you would buy this year over year when you can just keep it alive until next year and turn it red again. It's actually fairly simple. Find a bright spot in your home and a cardboard box. Every day after the sun sets at around 6 p.m., cover the poinsettia with the box. And every morning after the sun rises at around 8 a.m., take the box off. Now just repeat that for 6 to 8 weeks and your poinsettia will turn red again. While we wait for the poinsettia to bloom, let's talk strategy. Plants are like money. You never want to put all your eggs in one basket. For all I know, that poinsettia could be dead the next morning. So we need to diversify. The more plants I have, the more time I have to spend watering them. I have a simple 3-step process that I follow for watering each of my plants. First, I stick my finger in the soil to check the moisture level. Then if it's not too moist, I add water to the plant. And lastly, I empty the drainage saucer underneath the pot so that the plant doesn't sit in standing water. This whole process takes me about 60 seconds to complete, which means that for each potted plant I own, now and in the future, my watering sessions will take 60x number of seconds of my life, where x is the number of pots, ad infinitum. This is not a problem if you have a monk's ability to meditatively breathe in the repetitive nature of watering plants. But sometimes I just want to enjoy the aesthetic beauty of my plants without putting too much work in. And that is when you make a succulent garden. Same number of plants in a single pot for watering, 60 seconds once and done. The coolest thing about succulents is that they're very prolific at making babies. See this one over here? That's a baby. And this one over here, that's another baby. This one over here is not a baby, it's an adult that's just grown a little too tall. Each of these beheaded cuttings need a little bit of time for the wounds to callus, but after that you can plant them into their own pots and one day they will grow into their own fully fledged adult succulent. And it just so happens that I have a bunch of empty pots standing around. Propagating succulents is about as fun as side quests get. But let's not forget, extra pots, extra time. You gotta pick your battles, right? But it doesn't mean my baby succulents have to go to waste. Hey, brought you a gift.
Oh, lovely.
We're gonna have to fill up these pots at some point too. Got a lot more baby succulents waiting to hatch.